Sir Kannan Gopalakrishnan. He was working as a senior architect at Engineering Design Research Centre, L&T Construction, India's largest construction company. He's also worked on projects ranging from institutional buildings to international airports, apartment complexes to aircraft hangars. He's also attended 3 international conferences and 2 national conferences, and has also presented technical papers at the Jawaharlal Nehru University, Delhi, and the MSRIT, Bangalore. He's also won the national championship at Archaman at the India's largest architecture quiz. Sir Kannan Gopalakrishnan currently runs a design firm, Habitat Design Studio, and he is also a visiting faculty at the renowned architecture schools in Tamil Nadu.
Welcome back to UGC lecture series for another episode. This is AR 6006 Structure and Architecture. We are still looking at units 3 and 4. We are dealing with contemporary structural expression through case studies. This is lecture number 11, and if you could remember the way we saw the previous episode, we saw case examples of B3 offices in Stockley Park. We saw Sainsbury Centre for Visual Art, and in this episode we are going to look at 2 more very interesting case studies. One is the Renault Distribution Centre in Swindon, UK, and another one is the Stansted Airport, UK. Without any further ado, we straight away jump into Renault Distribution Centre, UK. The first look of the building. This is how the building looks. Honestly, when I looked at this building for the first time, and when they called it the Renault Distribution Centre, I laughed. Such is the reaction of a building that is going to be very important. With such an important building, look at what Foster has done, and this is what he produces. A very playful yellow colored portal frames, a series of portal frames and a series of spaces. The Renault Centre has been described as the practice's most playful structure. However, its development owes much to earlier, perhaps more resident system schemes for the clients such as Reliance Controls and Fred Olsen, which delivered inexpensive, flexible buildings to tight schedules. The centre was commissioned as the French car manufacturer's main UK distribution facility. Take a look at the picture. This is the Renault Distribution Centre. Without any great impact on the ground, without any great impact on the site or the volume, look at how a microsurgery has been performed on the site. Very minimal incision to produce a building that is so massive in size. In addition to warehousing, it includes a showroom, a training school, workshops, offices, and a staff restaurant. The notion that good design pays has almost become a cliche, but in this case it is quantifiable. On the strength of the design, supportive local planners increased their site development limit from 50 to 67%, allowing a floor area of 25,000 square meters. This is housed within a single enclosure supported by brightly colored tubular masts and arched steel beams, forming a striking silhouette within its surrounding landscape. The structural system that repeats itself to form this external outline is based around a 24 by 24 meter bay, a much larger than usual planning module developed so as to maximize the planning flexibility of the internal spaces. This is a very interesting picture that I found on their website. It's a picture where they have captured the building along with the yellow masts and tower structures along with the beams, and in the foreground there is this grassy field which sports yellow flowers. I was amazed by seeing this picture, And I found a striking coincidence here. Look at how sight helps us design buildings. The yellow colored mast and beams are merely structural elements which support the structure that has nothing to do with looks or aesthetics or splendor. But look at how they clearly personify the flower in the foreground to form the flower in the background. This expansive horizontal span is combined with an internal clear height of 7.5 meters, allowing the center to accommodate a range of uses from industrial warehouse racking to its subdivision into office floors. Enveloped by a continuous PVC membrane roof, pierced by glass panels at each mast, the building is also stepped at one end, narrowing to a single open bay that forms a porte-cochere alongside a double height gallery. A porte-cochere is nothing but a portal frame through which a vehicle can enter into the landscape of a building. Primarily a showroom, as signified by suspended car body shells, the gallery was used by Renault as a popular venue for arts and social events. This encourages wider community involvement in the building. As much as its internal spaces, however, it is the building's almost festive Renault yellow skeleton that gives the center such an identifiable character. This is the suspended car frames that they were talking about earlier in this slide. Primarily a showroom as signified by suspended car body shells, which you see here, suspended from the roof. This is the space that allows the Renault to use it as a public demonstration and community participation area. Significantly, this created such a memorable image that the building alone among the company's facilities did not need to carry the Renault logo. In fact, it is so closely associated with the brand that for many years Renault used it as a backdrop in its advertising campaigns. That is the kind of branding, corporate branding, that famous architect can give you. Imagine Renault with its logo, with Renault yellow, placed in a setting that has yellow flowers, and use the Renault yellow so strikingly, making a very subtle incision into the landscape, at the same time creating something which is so dynamic, so powerful, calling it the Renault yellow itself. It so happened that the Renault did not need to put their logo for a very long time, and this building is very closely associated with the company, so that they used it as a backdrop for almost all of its advertising campaigns for many years. So this is a sketch made by Renault, made by Norman Foster. The structural system which he had designed to scale, 24 by 24 meter frame. This is where entrance, this is the gallery space. He says here that it is a public space usable for exhibitions, displays, local events, as well as displaying Renault products and telling their story. This is explaining how he gets the sunlight into the buildings. Martin Pauli says that the Renault project gave Foster Associates the opportunity to further refine the performance and utility of its long span steel frame design by introducing mast supported trusses to create even larger unobstructed floor spaces. The result is a building that consists largely of its own elaborate roofing system, which itself is an interesting precursor to the spectacular roof later designed for the passenger terminal at the Stansted Airport. This is how the portal frames were designed. Very small ground space that is required to keep the building up, and extension on top to carry these frames shaped in a format which gives maximum space utilization in the middle of the area, thus allowing to be expanded on sides, and in the far end you see you put the beam and then you finish it with a wall, a concrete slab wall. Norman Foster himself says about the building, in the course of resolving the umbrella structure, we explored a broad range of solutions from grid shells and suspension structures to a conventional truss and rafters solution. Peter Dovey says that ad hoc Foster, Gothic Foster, playful Foster, jolly Foster, these are not the aspects of the architect we could have imagined before and now. This completely changed the way the architect has been designing. He is not known to have designed playful spaces. He is not known to have designed jolly spaces. All his buildings were no nonsense, straightforward buildings. But this was one of the first and the most playful buildings designed by the practice. This explains the structure. Here in this slide, we see the plan and section of the building, and the plan is a very straightforward structure, and we see those structural portal frames on the background. The building ends and the landscape begins. The open becomes semi-open and then it becomes a closed environment. This is a brilliant transition which is being provided over here. Let's go into the next building which we are going to look at in this section. The next building is called Stansted Airport Terminal. This is in UK. Stansted Airport challenged all the rules of airport terminal design. It went back to the roots of modern air travel and literally stood conventional wisdom on its head. The earliest airport buildings were very simple. On one side there was a road and on the other side a field. On the road the car came and dropped the passenger. On the field the aircraft landed into the wind. The route from the land side to air side involved a walk from your car through the terminal and out to your plane, which was always in view. This was the traditional view of an airport, of a very old, archaic or a parochial way of experiencing an airport, and Foster has tried to bring in that very essence into this project, and let's take a look at how he has tried to get that essence into this project. This is the famous open roof that he had designed for the Stansted Airport, and yes, this is how the building looks. A large building framed by tubular trusses which separates the land side and the air side. Stansted Airport attempted to recapture the clarity of those early airfields together with some of the lost romance of air travel. From the traveler's point of view, movement through the building is straightforward and direct. There are none of the level changes and orientation problems that characterized most airports. That is the problem today, isn't it? In modern day airports, people complain of the amount of distance that they have to walk from the entrance of the terminal to their plane, carrying their luggage most of the time. This is what Foster tried to break in the system, because the level changes when people had to move from one level to another level, when they had to change, do multiple functions at the multiple levels, the travelers become disoriented, and that is the problem which characterizes most of the airports today. He had to break this problem. Passengers progress in a fluid movement from the set down point through to the check-in area, passport control, then the departure lounges where they can see the planes. This is one of the inside areas of the Stansted airports. Clean, large, very functional. From there, an automated tracked transit system takes them to the satellite buildings to board their aircraft. This degree of clarity was achieved by turning the building upside down, banishing the heavy environmental services usually found at the roof level to an undercroft that runs beneath the concourse. The undercroft also contains baggage handling and was able to accommodate a mainline railway station. The railway station was integrated into the building late in the design process. This is the roof of the building. Service distribution systems are contained within the trunks of the structural trees that rise from the undercroft through the concourse floor. These trees support a roof canopy that is freed simply to keep out the rain and let the light in. Entirely daylit on all but most of the overcast of days, the constantly changing play of light gives the concourse a poetic dimension and also has significant energy and economic advantages, leading to running costs that are half those of any other British terminal. This is how the building looks. The undercroft which Foster was talking about is beneath the building, it's somewhere here. And these are the trunks that he was talking about, and the branches of the trees that hold the roof. Energy efficient, environmentally discreet within its rural setting, technologically advanced, yet simple to use and experience. Stansted has become a model for airport planners and designers worldwide. Simply checked all the tick boxes that any airport must have. This is the undercroft, the trunks, the trees. It's environmentally efficient because we are using very lesser energy, discrete within its rural setting, incorporates the highest of the technologies. It's very simple to use. Grid system of close to 36 meters. This is the land side and this is our air side, and a train system that goes on the undercourse, the passenger movement system on the top. Clear distinction between both the systems. This type of making, this is the trunk of the tree and these are the branches that they were talking about. The main advantage of using this kind of a system is the very clean environment which we get on the inside of the terminal. The inside of the terminal is extremely clean because all the services and all the requirements have gone beneath the ground to the undercroft area. This is the plan of the building. Again, some plans, overall plans. This is the terminal building here in this area, and this is the plane taxiing. These are car parks, and this is how you enter the airport terminal. This is the runway side. So sections of the buildings where the trunk of these trees provide spiral staircases which take you to the top, the upper deck, and a very clean for ground floor for all the people, all the passengers to move. Another view of the Stansted Airport. It's such a famous building that Sir Bannister Fletcher's History of Architecture, one of the most famous books that every architecture student would have definitely laid his or her hands upon, that book features this building. In the 20th edition, edited by Dan Cruikshank in 1996, there was a mention of Stansted Airport, which says that Stansted Airport is a rational response to the requirements of air travel, but the structure transcends the merely functional. Indeed, the structural trees which support the roof and carry services create a powerful romantic space with their arms branching up within an interior bathed with diffused sunlight. Yes, this is the building, and look at how Foster is trying to bring the light inside the building through skylights, and these are the parking, and this is how you enter the terminal. And under the terminal is the railway line. This is the air side, and the runway is on the other side of the air side. Norman Foster says that, for inspiration, we went back to the early days of aviation when life was very simple. You walked towards the aircraft, and when you returned, you walked towards the road. You did not need complex signage systems. Would it be possible, we asked, to rediscover that clarity given the complexity that generally constitutes the airport as we know it today? The question was simple as it was ridiculously simple, because previously in olden days airport designs was very simple. People get on from their cars, then there is a terminal. Through the terminal they see the planes on the air side, so they simply had to walk towards the planes to catch the plane. And while coming back from the plane, while arriving, they get on from the plane, they see the terminal, they simply walk through the terminal, and while they are walking through the terminal they see the road, so they simply walk towards the road, take a cab, go to the city. This was very simple. But today's airport designs are very complex. It's far more complicated than earlier airport designs because of so many functions and so many things that have come up in today's aviation industry. Is it still possible to get that simple feel of in see the road go out or in see the aircraft go out? That is what has driven the architect into this project, and that is what the project has tried to achieve, and he has achieved it to a very great extent. The closer look at the tree trunks, closer look at structural connections between the tubular trusses, and we also see a lighting from the top. This is the underground train station which they were talking about. The Stansted Airport Express has come to the airport, and here is the way out to airport. Through the escalator they go up, and on top of this structure is the airport terminal. All this is happening on the underground. This is another picture at the departure lounge. See large rows of seating, people waiting to get into their aircraft. Again, huge windows and light openings allow incredible amount of light into the building, so that the space practically doesn't need any light during the day. Everything is being taken care of by the natural light provided in the far end at the same time at this end. And look at the visual connect which Foster is able to achieve here. He is able to open up this side and this side at the same time. Modern day airport terminals will not be able to come any closer to this kind of an open setup, because modern day airport terminals are far complex, and look at how Foster has broken down the complexity in very simple terms. Jonathan Glancy, famous writer, author of books, architecture books, says that when you dive through the clouds in your charter jet and spot the silver machine, you will have no doubt that air travel has, for the first time in years, been rewarded with its own special breed of architecture. Air travel is a special thing, and a special thing such as air travel needs its own type of architecture, and that is exactly what Jonathan Glancy thinks Foster has given to the world. Norman Foster himself says that the big jets are a dramatic part of the scenery and provide a primary information to beckon you towards the air side. The terminal is really one very large room, and the arrival sequence is as simple as a reversal process on the same level. The roof is about light and water, the poetry of light and the hydraulic engineering of water. Gone are the ducts, suspended ceilings, fluorescent light tubes, roof mounted machinery, extracts, drainage pipes that disfigure most airports. All of that has been transformed through the design process. Here is a long list of awards that Stansted Airport has received. I will not be reading the list of awards this time because it stretches to 2 pages. So I would just hold on to the screen for some time so that you can have a look at it yourself. At the end of this lecture, we should have understood the contemporary structural expressions in large shed buildings. We should have understood the design philosophies and concepts of the architect Norman Foster. We should have understood the nuances of breaking the conventional purview of architecture in both the buildings that we saw in this lecture today. With the learnings that you have amassed in this lecture, you should be able to answer these questions that are going to appear on your screen right now. Explain the Stansted Airport, UK with sketches and details. Explain the Renault Distribution Center with sketches and details. How does Norman Foster view a project? How does he begin looking at it? Explain with relevant examples. We've come to an end of episode 11 in the series, and I look forward to meeting you with more exciting, interesting case studies on the other side of the next episode. So, thank you.